Well, joining us now is, don't you miss this, OjyOkpe, with stories trending around the world. Hello, Oji.
Good morning, Bimbai, our favorite Niger wife. Good morning, Rufy on fire. I told you should be back here, but you're not, eh? Will that be tomorrow? How are you this morning? Fantastic. And of course,
Chief of Umukwata.
Yes, I missed that introduction. I actually just met the king of Umukwata over the weekend. Shout out to him. Well, all right.
Wow, has he given you the title?
I told him, he said, Rufai, we are working on it. We are working on it. He's the Umukwata one, the Abacha.
Umukwata. You need to give Oji the chief of Umukwata.
Thank you very much for that campaign. Well, good morning, our international correspondent, Adefemi Akinsoya. How are you this morning?
Okay, thank you.
You're fine? Okay,
yes.
Fantastic. Excited. We're missing Dr. Abati today. Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending by taking reactions to the opera over the killings in Benue State that claimed over 150 lives in Yelewata. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu announced on Monday, after facing severe backlash from Nigerians for not visiting the community, that he's set to visit the state on Wednesday, June 18th, to address the escalating violence. The emergency visit will cause him to postpone his previously scheduled trip to Kaduna State until Thursday, June 19th. Tinubu stated that the visit aims to assess the situation firsthand and engage with various stakeholders, including traditional rulers, political and religious leaders, community leaders, and youth groups to find lasting solutions to the crisis.
Why I sympathize with the Benue people, I've spoken to the governor. The leadership and people of Benue should accept our condolences and tried hard, very, very consciously, to maintain peace, harmony among themselves. I've always said this, that we are one single huge family living in the same house, stay in different rooms, but living together in harmony will be the result of our diversity for prosperity. We should be able to manage our anger and frustrations. I sympathize those who have lost their life. I will adjust my program and go see Benue people on Wednesday.
All right, it appears that the president has heard the plea of Nigerians. But of course, this video also sparked some reactions. And this is from Sugar Boy, who wrote, "When over 200 lives are lost due to banditry, and the response from leadership lacks urgency, empathy, and accountability, it reflects a deep failure in governance and human responsibility. They are not just numbers. These are families, futures, and communities torn apart. It is both sad and shameful." Well, Chooks in response wrote, in case you're wondering why Wednesday, the Secret Service has a policy that states the president must not visit a location without a 2-day window. This is to allow the security team and the guards brigade plan appropriately. In the meantime, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, speaking with the community leaders in Yelewata and Daudu communities in Guma Local Government Area of the state, commiserated with the people and the governor while condemning the killings, which he described as an act of terrorism. The IGP reassured the people of Benue that the Nigerian police force is committed to restoring peace and bringing the perpetrators to justice. Let's take a look.
When one incident happened, hundreds of incidents have been prevented that are not known to the public. So that this happened does not mean that we have not been deploying. we have actually been deploying. We've been working together with the military and with other security agencies to ensure that this reign of impunity of these criminal elements ends. They know the strangers. Once that there is an impending danger, they should please give information to us.
Meanwhile, the governor of Benue State, Hyacinth, has said that the recent wave of violent attacks in the state is being carried out by armed herders who entered the state without cattle. Hyacinth also highlighted the genesis of the crisis while speaking with Charles Anyagole on Arise Prime Time on Monday, stating that the state is being attacked by both herders and terrorists. Let's take a look.
A context behind this, the anxieties we started having in this local government spanned as far back as 22, 23 years ago. But how it happened was the herders clashed with the farmers. This took quite a long period of time, and then eventually, in the last, say, 12 years, it shifted. It moved into the armed herders versus the entire communities. So again, the farmers were affected. They were every now and then driven off from their homes destroyed, and then they had to leave their farmlands as well. And since it's been there for quite some time, a good number of people were tired of seeing the repeat every now and then shifted into towns, but were still manning their farmlands. Of late, what we experience and what we see, it's more abhorrent. It is much and stronger, way beyond farmer-herder crisis. We're being attacked by bandits and terrorists. These had persisted for quite some time, but the level of what we have experienced in the last 2 months, it's so much alarming.
All right, Rufai, I'm coming to you. I know that the governor had also alleged in a series of his interviews that the attackers come in with AK-47 and AK-49 rifles, and that after these attacks, new groups often occupy the destroyed communities. The governor also said that, Benue's porous borders remain a concern, with some assailants coming from neighboring Nasarawa and even through the Cameroon borders. What are your thoughts on his, assessment of the whole situation at this moment?
So the first question is, Oji, where is the intelligence? If the governor says that people are coming in from neighboring towns, even from the water, what's the intelligence that blocks them? The other day, somebody was talking about the fact that some intelligence team has been sent in there. How have they been able to comb out the area? Then, what's the crime forensics? See, there is nowhere in the world where a crime is committed and people do not leave trails behind. So even the site of the burning and the killings wasn't even cordoned off in the first place. You see, when we say there's a complete systemic failure in Nigeria, people just think we are just speaking. The crime scene, has it been cordoned off? Are there forensic experts there? Are there people taking surveillance? Are there people that are even able to map out the bullet shells to be able to trace where the bullets are coming from in the first place? So there are many things that have happened in that community. And that's why I'm happy that the security chiefs have gone in there. Let them start their investigation. By now, we should be able to see that some of these perpetrators are being brought to book. It has to be an holistic approach. Secondly, is the humanitarian crisis that has happened there. The Catholic Church has done a lot of work, but there's still a lot of help. NEMA reported that over 1,000 households are affected. Thousands of men, thousands of women, hundreds of lactating mothers and the likes. Are we giving them their medicine? Are we looking for drugs for them? Are we catering to their feeding and shelter? What are we doing for them as we speak now? What's the psychosocial support like? What's the institutional support like? Also, what is the reporting channel like if people are seeing unscrupulous elements moving around that area? The question is, we do not want what happened in Benue to happen, but with the way we do things, it looks like we might come here and talk about another Benue debacle. In the course of 2-3 years, we've had thousands of people killed in Benue. What did we do to avert the killing? What was the investigation like? Who were those fingered? Before these attacks this year, we had close to 500 people killed already. Were we able to effectively plan for them? What is the support scheme for the families of the victims? Or we just tell them to bury their dead and move on like nothing happened? I think these are the things I want President Tinubu to address when he goes there. Because we need to be very holistic in our thought process, or else Benue will happen again. Niger floods happened the other day. What did we do as regards it? We've talked about the fact that there will be increased rate this year. So collectively, as a nation, if we don't have a culture for planning, if we don't have a culture for organization, then we'll always fall short. And that's why Peter Drucker will always talk about culture eating strategy for breakfast. And that's where we are. So it's not just solidarity face-saving visits. It's actually doing the work on ground. And government needs to release a lot of spending as regards that.
All right. Bring us back into the Lagos studio, Vimbai. I mean, like I read out earlier, the president says he's going to visit on Wednesday. And, you know, we talked about the fact that even ahead of his visit, he had deployed, you know, security agencies, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Defense Staff. We had seen the IGP of police there who had said that they have been making efforts. It's not because they don't, you know, report their efforts, which I would love to see more of, some of their wins, because what we are seeing now is a lot of, you know, carnage, death, people that are being burnt to the ground. But it's quite reassuring that he has said that they have boots on ground at this moment, Vimbai.
Absolutely. When they do the right thing, it's important that we acknowledge and we applaud that and we encourage more of it. You know, but in the spirit of applause, I think it's so important for us to also acknowledge Pope Leo XIV. Mm-hmm. You know, when we were talking about the Pope and there was debate about does it matter if the Pope might be African, and then we now went into the detail of the Pope's relationship and his history with Nigeria, some people thought we were doing a little bit of pandering and it was too much fanfare. But largely, if not for that statement from the Pope over the weekend, that brought the world's attention to this issue, it possibly could have been business as usual, because this is not the first time we've had this scale of killing happening in the Middle Belt and in other parts of the country. So it's important for us to acknowledge that and to thank the Pope as well, because it has led to a remobilization. Like you've said, the security agencies are on the ground. The SGF, who the people of Benue State had been complaining and saying we have an SGF who's from Benue State, but he's yet to speak up about the issue. He is part of the advanced team that's preparing for the president's visit. So I think all things are in order. However, why is it important for them to act decisively with this? Because like you can hear from the history that was spelled out by Governor Hyacinth earlier, is the fact that this crisis is decades old. It started as a herder-farmer issue. Then it has now snowballed and evolved into something else. What does that tell you? If we don't deal decisively with one criminality, it emboldens other criminals to join the bandwagon for no particular reason. So I hope that strategically we can come up with a number of issues. The Chief of Defense Staff we highlighted earlier also mentioned the fact that he feels that there's some type of saboteurs working within the armed forces. I hope that can be dealt with decisively as well, because this type of situation where you hear that there are soldiers stationed close by to an area where there was an attack went on for so many hours, but nothing happened, is concerning. So I really hope this is also an opportunity for the armed forces to weed out the bad eggs that are giving our armed forces, who are fighting so hard, a bad name. Very important for all hands to be on deck and for there to be a united front within the armed forces as well, as much as we want that from the communities.
Right. Adefemi, I wanted us to just highlight the governor's comment again. And, I don't know if you heard the brief history that he gave as, saying that we're not just being attacked by herders, we're also being attacked by terrorists, which is, a twin problem for him at this point. Before I come to you, I want to just take this story so we can tie it all together. Meanwhile, tensions flared in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, on Monday morning after the killings, as angry youth drove out a herd of cattle reportedly owned by Dixon Taker, a member of the House of Representatives for the Makurdi Guma Federal Constituency. Let's take a look.
This cows belongs to the Honorable Rep. Dixon Taki. Last night he took them to Nyajungu settlement. And the youth of Nyajungu today said that these cows cannot live with them. They should be protecting lives other than protecting cows. So the youth of Nyajungu now chase these cows away. As you can see, the cows are roaming on the road. And then the people taking care of these cows are the Fulanis, up to 6 Fulanis. 6 Fulanis. These are Dixon's cows. Dixon is harboring 6 Fulanis to protect these cows. But the youth of Nyajungu today said no, these cows cannot live in their community.
And we also saw a viral video showing security operatives allegedly escorting cattle through the city, sparking widespread reactions amid the growing insecurity. Let's take a look.
Sister, look at cows in Makurdi. Sister, look at cows in Makurdi. Benue State government is escorting the Makurdi capital. Sister, look.
Oh my God! Can you imagine this?
So you see the two sides to the story. On one hand, we're seeing the security forces escorting this, Fulani herdsmen, because, if you ask them, how do they know that they are Fulani? There's a language that they speak, and so they are able to identify them. At this point, they are, being also, attacked because of these sort of insecurity.
I think that what we're seeing in both pictures essentially is people who are growing frustrated with really feeling like they are at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the level of importance. If we're talking about insecurity and death and killing, the people should at first and foremost feel protected. But essentially what we're seeing in both videos is that clearly there's a lot of effort being put on the protection of these animals, right? And if you put that in comparison to the people, you can understand why they feel as though, well, first and foremost, if these animals are bringing in the situation which we're trying to fight against, get them out of here. And then there's a slap in the face of seeing how well these animals are being protected against the backdrop of people who quite literally don't have any protection. And if we go back to what the president said at the beginning of your segment, he made the analogy of how we are all living in the same house but just in different rooms. But the situation here is that the room that these people are living in is completely dilapidated. They have no roof, they have no windows, they have no doors, and because of that, they're completely vulnerable to the attacks that we are seeing. So when the president does eventually come to Benue tomorrow, we're hoping that he comes to first and foremost acknowledge the pain of the people and then give them a real list on what is going to be done. Because if we're saying, okay, we're going to put military in these different vulnerable areas to keep you protected, but then we're hearing that there are members of the military who are going against their, directives and not doing what they're supposed to do. Okay, so what is actually going to be the next thing you're going to do? And then how are you going to protect people's lives? How are you going to protect their livelihoods? What are you really going to do to change their immediate reality? Because it gets to a point, which is where we're at now, where conversations and visits just isn't enough. And there needs to be something.
Right. Rufai, I'd like your thoughts on both stories. On one hand, we're seeing that, the government is, protecting the Fulani herders. On the other hand, we're seeing young people going after these herders in Makurdi.
You see, it is an indictment on our country that cattle are roaming around our streets when they should be kept in confined spaces. Oji, go to Argentina Go to big beef producing nations. How many times do you see that we have cattle roam around the streets, that we move them from point A to point B? We have said consistently that those that want to do this beef business must be able to provide infrastructure for them to graze. In fact, this idea of cattle roaming around affects the quality of meats. I can tell you that because I also did a course called Meat Science. There's something called the quality of meats. So when you see all of this happening, and you now see our military forces, or you see security forces, beg your pardon, now saying, oh, we must direct them back to town, angry you chasing cow. In 2025, if we are thinking, should cow be the priority of Nigeria? Other economies are thinking of how to go to the moon, how to go to the space, how to bring their people out of poverty. We are having back and forth over Malu. It shows there's something dysfunctional with our faculties in this country. That cows have become the order of the day and priority. That in 2025, we are even reporting it on national TV, how we are chasing cows back and forth. People have politicized cows. Cows shouldn't cause problems. People that want to do business of cow should be able to keep their cow in a confined space. Pure and simple. And this should not be a matter of states. Because the way we are going, I just pray one day we will not have a constitution for cow in this country. Let us make peace reign. Whatever the crises are between the herders and the farmers should be sorted out, and people should not be allowed to pass their boundary. I'm just surprised I'm at sea at what is happening in this country.
I know.
Cow.
Yes.
This conversation today.
You're absolutely spot on, Rufai. I mean, the call for ranching has never been louder. I mean, the issue in Benue State really needs an overhaul at this moment. You know, meanwhile, we're getting reports that the principal's special assistant to the governor of Benue State on youth and media mobilization, Atu Joseph, has suspended his chief of staff and chief press secretary for participating in protests against the ongoing killings in the state. In a letter addressed to them, Atu Joseph alleged that they undermined his authority and breached the trust of the oppositions. The suspension was said to be indefinite, and both men are reportedly barred from carrying out official duties or representing the office. Vimbai, I know you had to laugh. I know you had to.
The principal special assistant is suspending his own chief of staff and chief. So special assistants now have chiefs of staff and chief of...
I have not heard this one before.
Chief press secretary.
This is the quagmire.
That's on a lighter note. On a lighter note. On a more serious note, I had to read that release almost 3 times because I thought, I was wondering why a special assistant or a special advisor is firing the governor's chief of staff and chief press secretary, only to realize that, no, it's his own team that he has. Anyway, wonders will never cease to amaze me. However, although the letter did not specifically state what acts against their principal they committed, the context is that they participated in those protests that we saw taking place in Benue State over the weekend, which is just so unfortunate and disgraceful, is that the government is clearly, in many ways, helpless and trying to get attention to this issue. If not for some of this advocacy that took place over the weekend, who knows whether the necessary attention would have been given to Benue State. It was a peaceful protest. You can see them, they're carrying leaves. There were young people, there were women, there were children who were just trying to get the world's attention to what's going on in their state. There's even a police escort. Yes, they do claim that the protest was hijacked and some people were arrested, and we saw those scenes of tear gas and so forth, to which people are saying, where was this aggression when the attack was happening? Why were the police not this alert when the local government area was being ransacked by criminals? But when it's just defenseless, peaceful protesters, suddenly we remember our gra-gra. So this is very unfortunate. As for the suspension of these two gentlemen, we appeal to the principal special advisor to the governor of Benue State to rescind this suspension with immediate effect, because they were acting in the interests of their state. Because, like I always like to remind people, government appointees are not to act in the interest of their principal, they are to act in the interest of the country. They serve the constitution, not individuals. So important to draw those lines.
I like that. Thank you, Vimbai. Did you want to make a quick comment before we head to Enugu State regarding the suspension of these these protesters? I mean, you don't even know if a member of their family was affected in this whole tragedy. Adefemi.
No, we don't know what the situation is, and whether or not, like you say, it's very likely that they could have a personal tie to what is happening. And clearly, this is something that everybody is condemning, really and truly. We can all agree that there needs to be more being done in Benue State. But I do think that, I mean, we're perhaps making a bit of out of a molehill. It's a suspension. It's not clear for how long. Eventually they'll come back, and perhaps they can sort out whatever issues that they had with the person or the peoples who have suspended them. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. What I do think is a bigger deal is obviously what is happening in Benue State, and that's where we should really be focusing our attention.
Again, we call on the security forces to double down their efforts. The issue of insecurity continues to plague the northeast area. Also in Enugu State, in the wake of the deadly attack which occurred on Monday, June 9th, by suspected armed Fulani headsmen, another person remains missing. We saw that viral picture of one young woman who was laying in, with a leaf covered up. The attack was said to have occurred in Eha and Mufu Local Government Area of the state. We're calling on the state governor to look into the story. A community leader had confirmed that the incident and said that the people in that area are frustrated and they are living in fear due to the reported killings. Rufai Oseni, your thoughts on Enugu as well?
Oji, you see, like I said before, you can almost predict what will happen if some things are not done. If the story is about killings again in Nigeria,
in Enugu State,
it is indicative of the trend and the culture of not doing things right. The question is, what did we do to forestall the last killing? What did we do to create buffers? If all of that is not in place, then you will have continuous skirmishes and continuous killings. And you see, it is shocking that all of this is happening in Nigeria. And we have become so used to it now that all we just do is to react and nothing happens. And when we start becoming numb to our problems, it brings about a society where there's a gulf in empathy. So please, we would like to call on the authority, investigate. Absolutely. But when you say investigate in this country, investigation is very hard, though, because it is in this same country that the Attorney General died, was killed, nothing happened. Delegiwa died so many years. Nothing happened. Many other killings, the likes of Harry Marshall, many other killings have happened. Nothing happened. So we have a culture that is so quick to move on. And you really wonder who gets brought to book.
All right, Rufai, thank you. Well, let's head over to Iran now, highlighting this shocking scene that has gone viral after an Israeli airstrike directly hits the headquarters of Iran's state-run television during a live broadcast on Monday, June 16th. The attack caused an explosion that was heard on air, forcing the news presenter to evacuate the studio. Let's take a look.
که شنیدید صدای متجاوز به خاک وطن، صدای متجاوز به صدای حق و حقیقت است. آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلوده استدیو
Really scary situation in Iran, between Iran and Israel. We know that the strike occurred amidst a 4-day escalation of conflict between Israel and Iran, with both sides launching significant attacks. We believe that earlier Israel had issued an evacuation warning for an area of central Tehran that included the TV station as well as police headquarters and hospitals. There was an evacuation order, but of course, you know, we continue to do our job by reporting the news. Vimbai was, you know, actually hailing the journalist, saying that she tried because, you know, in the face of this sort of attack, what else can you do? Our favorite international correspondent, the story comes to you.
When we look at Israel's actions over the past 3 to 4 years, we know that they haven't had any type of restraint when it comes to attacking journalists.
Yes.
Many Palestinian journalists have been murdered, outright murdered, and there's been nothing done about it. Shireen Abu Akleh was shot in the head while she was reporting, just as an example about how Israel doesn't have a red line when it comes to its escalation, when it comes to its violence. And here we have, in a completely different country, another journalist being put under threat. Just as she was able to get up and leave the set, the ceiling could have collapsed on her and everybody else in the room. And I think because it didn't happen and because we can focus on the dramatic side of it, we forget that she could have died just like many other Arab and Muslim journalists have died at the hands of Israel with absolutely nothing and no one to defend these people or to punish Israel for what they are doing. So I think that when we're looking at the state of the world now, we have to get to a point where we can openly criticize Israel and say that they are the perpetrators of too much crime, that nobody is safe, not journalists, not women, not children, nobody. And eventually we have to get to a point where we have to all sing the same chorus when it comes to condemning this one country for the crimes that they continue to perpetrate against people who have nothing to do with what they're fighting for.
Well said, Femi. Vimbai, quick comment.
I just want to reiterate just my support for the boldness of that journalist. It reminded me of... do you remember there's a promo they used to run on CNN of Christiana Mampur where she's reporting and bombs are going off in her background and she, you know, so bold. That's what it reminded me of. And just almost just a call to us in our work. Sometimes our work feels thankless. Sometimes our work feels exhausting. Sometimes we're not sure if we're making a difference. And to me, it was just a beautiful reminder that at any given moment, at any given time in this work called journalism, you don't know which of your stories is going to be the story that changes the world or that makes an impact or that's able to change a narrative or shift something, some type of inequality or, you know, some type of injustice in the world. So for me, Sahar Emami is her name. She was back on air 20 minutes later. What a rock star, you know. So that was the highlight. It's just the fact that this job has so many occupational hazards. Thank God we don't have those kinds of risks, and it's important for us to continue to hold the powers that be accountable so that here in these studios in Lagos, in Abuja, and wherever you are in Nigeria, we are not under this type of threat.
Well said, Vimbai, well said. And also the bigger story, the bigger picture, we call for world peace, we call for ceasefire between Israel and Iran. We'll take another story now. The First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has called on Nigerians in the diaspora to increase their commitment to national development. The First Lady made the appeal during a visit from Dr. Philip Ozua, the President and CEO of Montefiore Medicine in the United States. Dr. Ozua visited Nigeria to spearhead a transformative mission to improve and impact lives through his foundation, the Dr. Philip Ozua Foundation, which focuses on education with scholarships for all, food security, through a distribution program that has delivered over 1 billion naira in food aid and healthcare, recently donating $50,000 to the Immaculate Heart of Mary Specialist Hospital in Anambra State. In 2022, Dr. Ozuwa donated $1 million to his alma mater, the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan, to build a hostel. This donation is regarded as the highest amount given by an individual to a university in Nigeria. On June 11th, Dr. Ozuwa joined dignitaries and medical students to commission the hostel project, which houses 168 students at the College of Medicine. Dr. Ozuwa, who hails from Anambra State, also visited his hometown, where he organized a food outreach program for 2,000 households and donated 50 million naira to a women's organization. Senator Oluremi Tinubu commended Dr. Ozuwa's philanthropic contributions to Nigeria, especially his alma mater, the University of Ibadan, and emphasized the importance of diaspora engagement, despite being the CEO of an $8 billion health system that serves over 8 million patients in the United States. Dr. Ozuwa has maintained a successful relationship with the people of his hometown.
Let the people of my town know that I think of them, and that although I don't live in the village and I'm in the United States, I have them in mind all the time. And that's why we're doing what we're doing here this afternoon is in recognition of that. And that's really it. And in honor of my parents, Chief Ozuwa and Mrs. Justina Ozuwa.
This is completely amazing. Kudos to Dr. Philip Ozuwa. We know that the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, also met with Dr. Philip Ozuwa and sought a partnership to revolutionize Nigeria's healthcare system. The proposal includes establishing a specialized medical research and training center in Nigeria, strengthening rural health infrastructure through equipment donations, and implementing knowledge exchange initiatives for Nigerian medical professionals in the diaspora. Dr. Ozuwa has expressed his readiness to work with Nigeria to improve its healthcare system. Rufai, I know we took this story back in 2022, where we hailed him for his contributions to the university. And now we're seeing that the university is up and running. He donated $1 million to the university. And it's a great call, really, for especially with the First Lady of Nigeria saying that the diaspora remittances and the diaspora have to continue to engage with Nigeria. A real quick comment before we take our good news report, Rufai.
Okay. I mean, Oji, what he did for the University of Ibadan also makes a case for endowment, because that's a big endowment. Over $1 million worth of endowment for that hostel is going to help a lot in the medical system. But Dr. Ozuwa leads Montefiore Health System, which is a very big health system, worth billions in America, and he's got a lot of patients. And he didn't just make it easily. I once heard one of his speech where he talked about the segregation he faced, how one of his supervisors so looked down on him that they will never call his last name. He said when things turned around for him, that same supervisor that never believed in him, he heard somebody call, "Hi, Dr. Ozuwa," one day, and it was that same supervisor. So he went through a lot in America. In fact, he had spoken at the Stuttering Foundation speech at some point, because I think he had a stutter at some point and he did outgrow it.
Fantastic.
But he used all of his experiences, be it negative, and he turned it around for good in his life.
Right.
He did a food outreach. He's met with the president's wife. He also has a lot of things he's going to be doing for Nigeria. And that's the real power of the diaspora.
Absolutely. I love that.
That giving back.
Yes.
He went to University of Ibadan. He went abroad to get more knowledge, but he never forgot home.
Right.
And he leads a very formidable health system abroad.
All right.
So
Fantastic.
He did a very good story, and this is one worth celebrating.
This is worth celebrating, and kudos to Dr. Ozuwa. A real call for the people in the diaspora to emulate him. Kudos. We'll take our good news report now, highlighting renowned highlife music legend Bright Chimezie, who has recently signed a deal with global music giant Sony Music Publishing. Bright Chimezie, known as the Ziggy Master, for his creation of the unique Zigma sound, an infectious rhythm that gained prominence in the 1980s. Sony Music stated that the deal aims to bring Chimezie's music to new audiences while preserving and celebrating his artistic legacy. The collaboration comes weeks after the music legend met with Afrobeat superstar Davido in Lagos. Davido hosted Chimezie as a gesture of appreciation, having sampled the singer's 2010 song Because of English in his hit song With You, featuring Omale. Davido released the visuals of the song on YouTube on June 16th. Bright Chimezie made a guest appearance in the music video, replicating his famous dance moves, flanked by Davido and Omale. Let's take a look.
I know fit forget you. If I speak English, you cho no walking. I know I punish you. I want to punish you. If you see my baby, you go shut up. I'ma get too fine, don't be makeup. Yeah, baby, lie down, no. Finish work for me, oh tomato, put that thing back, oh baby.
Oh my goodness, this is huge. Congratulations to Bright Chimezie. I mean, what can we say? The reinvention of the Ziggy Master. I wish we had more time. I'd love to thank you all for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.